Hi there guys, this is Cassandra. I'm a Riffle in Time and I'm so glad you're here. Today we're doing the top 10 Oracle decks of 2024. Now these are just like my favorite standout decks, my most used, like that combination here. So I had, actually this one was a hard one. I thought like usual the tarot video would give me the harder time, but this year I think was the year of the Oracle decks for me because this was definitely way harder for me this year, and I have a lot of decks like I really love on the table. I guess there should be a little like asterisk somewhere, like a little FYI. I think one of the reasons this was even harder is because I am only considering, for like the sake of the videos, Outgrow Yourself and Extraordinary Incantations as Oracle decks this year. I thought it would be better to just put them in one video so like we didn't have like that repetitive, redundant, them taking up like a top 5 spot in both videos. Because spoilers, they totally would. So what I did is I put them only as Oracle decks. And honestly, I found like I have a lot of decks here that I'm just like really smitten by, I guess, and a few of them are new, and I think that's important to note that, like, again, though it's not a video about new decks this year, I do have decks that I just got this year that really shook up my Oracle game, and so that's really fun and I can't wait to share with you. I will have a whole separate video for my tarot decks for this year, and then I'm even thinking of doing like my pairings of the year, like my favorite pairings I've done this year. In consideration for these videos, I am like doing research. I am going back through my journal, my pictures. I'm like really going through it, like all my readings I did for other people, like which decks I used, and like really kind of just thinking in general. It's like what readings did I do this year that really stood out? Like what in my practice did I do with my decks this year that really stood out? And so these are the facts. No, I'm kidding. But I really did try to kind of consider a little bit of everything when choosing my top 10. As like, what were my workhorses? What were decks I was just so excited about? I was excited to pull out that like are just really lighting me up this year. And I will get to it, I guess. The first deck on the table I think is kind of a cool idea. And I did this for both of my videos. I am adding my most used deck for others in this video because I think that has like really been an important part of my practice this year is my readings I've done for others. And since I do a pick a deck reading, you get to choose like what deck I use, and I think it was kind of cool to see which deck was the most used by like and chosen by other people. So my number 10 spot is going to be that in both videos actually. So this year my most chosen Oracle deck by other people for readings was the Color Vision Oracle. Now, I will say this is also a top one for me as well when I was thinking about it because, like, I think this would have been 10 either way. But this was such a good deck to pair up with other decks, and also this one is such a great, like, having an energy for a reading, wrapping up a reading. Like, it did so good. I don't think I used it as much on its own, which I would have probably used it more maybe if I would have done that, kind of just, oh no. I didn't do a good job of turning these upside down, but I think if I would have done this like as like more of like a weekly or a monthly doing a pull for like the energy, I think that could have been really cool, and I think I would have used it even more. But this one, you're gonna see probably, I'll probably talk about it for a while during my pairing video because I did a whole, like when I got it, I brought out every deck that I had that could go with it, and I made a whole table of it. And I found I had so many decks that went so well with it. One of my favorites was Tarot of the Holy Spectrum Infinity Edition. I loved it with Circo Tarot. There was actually the next one on the table I loved pairing it with. It just really went with so many things, and I have to talk about the guidebook because I think that's one of the cooler things. Now I will say this guidebook is hard to like show people because I wish it was spiral bound. That is something like I wish I could really, because it's hard to like share it. Like I like to share photos of it when I do use it because it's such a good guidebook. There are different colors in this. So like we have this like multicolor card here that's actually paired with like an emotion, or like a word in some way. Like we have growth, we have purification, and there was like anger, there's gratitude. So these cards are like these they have one page, and it will still give you the summary of the card, keywords, symbolic connections, planetary, celestial connections, embodied connections, color prescription, and prompts. So that's for those. And then you have like your base just colors. So this is like plum, we have turquoise, we have crimson, like silver. So you get a normal, and we're gonna go with terracotta here. It gets 2 pages for those single colors. So you have this big kind of more than just a summary. Like you have a full page of like what terracotta is. Then it comes with dynamic visions, earthly connections. This is paired with like the root sacral earth star chakra, it says. And so it has like a whole thing about that. Then you have like little things here. We have if you have it in excess, if you're lacking, what foods, earth energies, bodily, complementary opposites, movement, essential oils, astrological signs, the personality, the negative, and then kind of a little, almost kind of overview little thing here. But I think that is so crazy how much is in here for these colors. And I also have like really enjoyed to add it to like the end of my readings, to be especially like the prompts. Like when there are prompts for those multicolors, I like to add those in for people. I like to give them that list of like, if you're feeling this in excess, or if you feel like you're lacking this, and like finding ways to incorporate the color. Like I just think it's such a cool idea. And not only that, but there's like, it's a huge deck. So like that much in time and attention on every individual color, and like, I just think it's such a good deck. Oh my gosh, my poor freaking guidebook. Why do you guys let me touch things? The one thing I will say about this deck is it has these borders on the plain colored ones, and it has this kind of border on the multi. I wish it was this on both, because this can get a little chippy here. Just a heads up. It can get a little chippy. That doesn't bother me. Or kind of like, I guess not chippy, maybe, I don't know the word, but sometimes like I can tell where I've shuffled it a little too aggressively. The next deck I have here is a deck that I think will live forever, and one of my favorite Oracle decks. Like even if it wasn't here for a year, it's still one of my favorite Oracle decks of all time. I will keep coming back to it. I will keep loving it. It's Spread Crafters. Oh, I didn't show you the box for Color Vision. Here, this is for number 10. This is Color Vision. I think I am out of stock of this right now, but hopefully we'll have a restock here in the new year. But there's also the website actually on this box of the creator, and I believe that she still has some. Spread Crafters I don't stock, but I don't know if it is completely out of print or not. I know that there are some expansions to this deck that are not out of print. So even if Spread Crafters isn't in print right now, I don't think it is, but unfortunately, hopefully there's a Kickstarter to come back or like a reprint, and I will definitely jump on that and try to get it back in the shop. So this deck is another deck. The concept of is just so good. Uniqueness in concepts of decks is so important to me, and you'll find that a lot of these are just like really unique decks. This deck is like, I guess its intention, I'll start flipping, is to be used as a spread creating deck. It has like different, oh no, please tell me I didn't shuffle it in. I don't think I did, actually. Let me show you that first. This is like the quick start card, and it gives you the categories. Like you'll see these, there's different colors. They're all different categories. So we have the seeker category, the focus areas, light work, shadow work, call to action, and subcategories. Then you have a little guidebook here that tells you like how to do the process. And it also gives you like, there's different ways you can use this deck. I use this deck differently than like the, I guess, at least initially intended way to use it. I use this deck to do conversations with it. I shared a video this year, the ways I work with my decks. And I think I showed a clip in that video of how I have conversations with this deck. I might have even done a separate video. I cannot remember if I actually ended up posting that video or not. But this deck is just a dream. It's a dream. I can do so many things with it. I can make this work in so many different ways. So the category here is success. I think this is one of the subcategories, but practice, to put into action, to apply a concept in a practical way, to hone a skill, to develop a habit, to exercise. We have the seeker category. This is about like the character or personality card that highlights you. Persona, how you choose to present yourself in different scenarios, personality traits that you project or emphasize, the roles you adopt. So each card has a little thing explaining like what it means, or you have some of these that are like more like keywords. And I found a million ways to use this deck. I really have. But again, my favorite way to use it is like I'll have a conversation. I will like ask a question or like whatever, go back and forth with it. It's like, and I try to take the card as like its response to me. And then again, I will make a comment, a question, whatever back. And I just find that the flow I have with this deck is just really extraordinary. And also, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at these edges. You know lavender and how it does me. Just on that, it's beautiful, like at the very minimum. But again, if you want to be creating some like really unique spreads, that is another thing. This deck will just expand your capabilities of spreads. It's just really, it's such a cool deck. Good clarifier too. I use it as like a clarifying card or like a focus card for a reading. The next deck, so that was number 9, was Spread Crafters. Number 8 is Reclaim. Reclaim Oracle. Now this one actually just had a Kickstarter that is like for the new edition. It's down now, but I did back it as like a shop. So I will be getting some copies. I only have, I believe it's like 10 copies coming. So I will try to get more maybe, because this is a winner. Now, some of the cards in the new edition did change, but I don't care if they change, whatever, it's still going to be delightful. I think like a few cards went away and we got a few new cards instead. And that was more of like a kind of meeting the creator, like meeting themselves where they were, like cards that they thought they wanted to add or whatever. And I think that's even cool, having like, I'm going to have both. So, but it's still going to be the same concept of this deck, which is it's a lot of like emotion based. So we have like resentment, we have powerlessness. There's a guidebook that comes with this that like a little guidebook, and it'll give you a little bit about the cards. But how I like to use this deck, I think I might have done a video about this too. I'm not sure if I shared it public or not, or if it was just like at the time I was doing members, so it might have been members only. If I can, I'll share it if it's not already public. But I did like an emotional kind of pinpointing of like how I was feeling. So I flipped through the entire deck card by card and made piles of like, is this feel like a good thing? Like does this feel kind of like it could be it? And like ones that just completely didn't. I ended up like narrowing it down, and then did this whole thing where I went with another deck actually that's on the table, and I like tried to kind of match it to the cards there, and like there's little poems in that one. So I don't know, it was like a whole shebang, and I think it was beautiful. And every time I'm feeling some kind of way that I can't put my finger on, this is where I go, like without a doubt. So, like I'm usually pretty self-aware, and like I can get a good grip on my like how I'm feeling, but sometimes there's that kind of like itch that like uncomfortableness I can't quite put my finger on. And right here. Okay, so next we have the deck I was just mentioning, really, with Reclaim. This is Poesis, or I believe that's how you pronounce it. I absolutely adore this deck because, again, it is a very unique deck. Not only are there like a ton of cards, different kind of keywords than just like your average Oracle deck, and obviously the art is very unique in its way, but this deck has poems that are paired with each of the cards. So each card like coincides with a poem, corresponds to a poem, and it's a digital library. You like get the little website when you order the deck, but also they just came out this year with a physical book that you can buy separately. I am absolutely buying it because I would love to have the book of poems. I love to, when I'm doing that kind of emotional pinpointing, I will find a card and kind of try to find a card that kind of matches that emotion, or at least even like sometimes one that will counteract that emotion if I'm feeling. And then I'll read the poem and kind of go in there and just kind of sit with the words. So like I find a emotion that I'm feeling, I find a poem that kind of matches it, and I sit with like that poem, and like I'll read it a few times. I'll do a little journal about it. And I've done this with other decks, but I really love the combination of the two. There's something about, I don't know, it just really does it for me. I am a word witch, so I do enjoy that this has, like, I love poems, I love books, I just in general really love writing. Oh, here's the card. I must have shuffled in. I'm notorious for doing this. But there is like a little website that has the library, which is really cool. And this, I really do enjoy the art here, and like it's pairing, like this is Soften, and like I'm not sure if when people think Soften they would think about a melting candle in this way, and like it's like this figure, there's like a little flower. I don't know, it just like it feels really cool to see Soften look like that. And I like root, this is cool. Or struggle, like tell me that doesn't look like struggle to you. You know what I mean? It's like pushing the rock up the hill, but the rock is your mind. Isn't that delightful? And also another like really, I think all these decks, I guess I can't really say they're just also beautiful. The next one is a new deck this year. I think actually in general, it's a new deck this year in general, but also a new to me deck, obviously, since it just came out this year. Let me fact check myself. Please have your published date. Copyright 2024. Boom. For me remembering. Oh, I didn't show you. Hold on. Gosh, I'm so bad at this. This is the box for Poesis. And it doesn't come with like a guidebook per se, but it comes with this little pamphlet that kind of explains how to use it, like a fold out that also could be like a little hang up poster, which is cool. Has a little poem inside as well. I will show you now. I'll be good and show you the box here. I opened mine upside down. I never tear these. I know this might sound silly, but I am not like extremely superstitious or anything. But when I read that there is like a superstition, I'm not going to try it. You know, I'm not against or for. I just like, why risk it? So I heard it's bad to undo these, and so I've never done it. And also, I don't like how it looks once it's broken. I don't like the stickiness. You can't like ensure that you can get it off. So I just open from the bottom. So just like information, I guess. It has that rose petal on it that's on the cards, which I love. It's not like a super, like, it's not a rose petal that I can't like flip through. You know what I mean? That I can't shuffle. I've had some rose petals that are really intense. But this is Gaia Lessons from the Earth Oracle. And it is gorgeous. This deck is like, I think I have a type. I think I have a type. I really love watercolor. And I love watercolor art, and I love nature. So like you've seen before actually on previous decks I've liked, or like top 10s. I think Roots and Wings is one that would frequent this is one of those decks, kind of like Roots and Wings. This did kind of take up a little bit of that spot since it's new also. And this is like super colorful, and again, very like this kind of nature world connection, but to like my spiritual body. I can't explain perfectly, but I can say that this makes me just feel everything. And it, again, even if this wasn't a deck, I think I would have to have the artwork of it. Like, I think what Andrea does is something so beautiful. This is the guidebook too. It's like a full-size guidebook. So do a little compare. Like, this is the guidebooks that kind of come in the box size. This is like a full-size guidebook that comes with it. Obviously, since it's a tuck box, it doesn't come in it. But you get full color art cards, like a whole page of the card. So like bigger than the card or the same size. I think it's a little bigger. And then each one has like a little reading with it. And it always just feels really good. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss on that one. I think that deck was one of the decks that really shook up my top 10 this year. Again, it kicked out some decks that are pretty regular, and it like took place. Now, I did say that, like, you know, this kind of helped kind of take over a spot from Roots and Wings, but the other deck that also did that is by the same creator of Roots and Wings. I really love, like, I think Kat's art is amazing and beautiful, but their new deck, which also might have came out this year, or maybe like the end of last year, the very end of last year, is Phases in Forest. I've been using this and the Gaia Lessons from the Earth instead of Roots and Wings a lot of times, because I'm using them a little differently too. This is Kat's art, which is beautiful, gorgeous, nature watercolor. And also it has these like little kind of reflective questions paired with each of them. This one's very moony too, which, you know, I love how I love the moon. I normally wear a piece of the moon around my neck, so like Moon Girl 5000. And then also, again, I'm using this like reflective kind of question to do like a journal prompt to like think about for the day to chew on. And I really love that that's there for me. And it makes this just like an easy card a day. Usually when I'm using Roots and Wings, I'm using it in a pairing as like a pair to my spread, like of my Oracle, like an Oracle deck with my tarot deck. And this is just on its own a lot of the times, or it'll be like the center point of my reading. I'll do a whole reading around the question, which is really cool too. And again, beautiful watercolor art. I love this like nature watercolor art. And again, Kat, just an amazing artist. Though I will say Roots and Wings was on the table because it was in consideration. I got the new edition of that this year, and I just really loved it. My hair is crazy. I'm so sorry. So that was number 5, was Phases in Forest. The number 4, yeah, I'm just going to keep going in this order. I guess it's so funny because I was like not sure I had things in the order that I really wanted them, because I kind of just like picked them one at a time, but it really is starting to feel right. My number 4 is Thistledown, and I don't think this should be a surprise because I'm a Three Trees Tarot lover. I think for the rest of time, there will be a Three Trees Tarot deck in one of my top 10 videos. Like, I might kind of shuffle between which one I'm using the most, but now that there's an Oracle too, like the Oracle, this was just so good because I've been really looking for that like perfect pairing with like Oak, Ash, and Thorn per se. And this is it. This is it. I also I got Heartwood this year too, so I've just been using it a ton. This is another deck that saw a lot of love in my readings for others. A lot of people chose this deck. This would be like probably the second chosen deck. I love this little spider. It's literally the little jumping spider is my life. I obviously did not do a good job at I'm flipping these around. They're just, I use the decks. I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me. But they are really just perfect. I will never shut up about how much I love Adam's art. And this was just, it's also, I used it on its own too, which is really surprising to me. But like I was doing a month ahead kind of planning, and I picked a card for it. And I didn't want it to be a full tarot reading. I didn't want it to be a whole thing. But I picked a card, and it was like Retreat was the card, I believe. And it was just like, you know what, this year I'm gonna like not be doing as much, you know, I'm gonna try to come back to myself. And that was just, it was a perfect thing. And again, having that perfect pairing now for Oak Ash and Thorn, Heartwood, even Smoke Ash and Embers, like it's again, beautiful. Third, sorry, Joey, before I even say it. Third, another deck that's probably not in order. Bear with me, people. This is Iris. If I riffle shuffle a deck, it's just it. And this is a 78 card Oracle deck that I riffle the heck out of. This is a deck that I not only have talked about a lot this year anyways, but I feel like I've always really like loved on Iris. Iris is just one of those decks that is so itself, and like almost like when I know somebody who has Iris, who loves Iris, it's like I mention it and it's like, if you have it, you love it. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I was at an event one time and I had Iris there obviously, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is my Oracle deck. And they're like, went and grabbed their friend to show them, and their friend ended up buying it actually. But it was like, if you love Iris, you'll shout it from the rooftops. I don't know. Like I've never seen someone have such an exciting reaction to seeing a deck. It's so unique. One of the things I say about this deck all the time is that it does such a beautiful job, especially as an Oracle deck, really going through the whole like sphere, not sphere. There's a better word for it. Why can't I think of it right now? But it does the human experience so well. Like all of the different things that you could think to want to feel about, you know? And then some you didn't. What makes this deck really good is the guidebook isn't like this huge big thing. It's not. But it's what it says is very like powerful. Mary is amazing. I don't know if there's a deck. No, there's not a deck that I've ever seen of Mary's that I haven't loved. Apparition is another one I talk about a lot. It's also from Mary Evans. Spirit Speak decks, I guess, are just my jam. And this is, I feel like I got so excited I didn't say anything. What I'm trying to say is I think Mary just does decks right. She's just one of those creators that like is just, I could sing from the rooftops about. And Iris is my favorite of all of the Spirit Speak decks. And that's saying a lot because again, I love them all. It's just, there is somebody actually who, I think I've mentioned before, who does readings on another app with Iris a lot. And it's just like one of those things is like, it hits every time. Every time I just like, it's crazy. I think Iris is one of the few decks that like, every time I get it, it really feels it. It feels it in the chest and the bones and like the weight of the truth. Okay, so let's do this. So I can explain this better. Let's go to page 75. Weight of the truth. When you are a high priestess, you are a keeper of secrets, ones that not everyone can handle hearing. When you see the truth, the weight of falsehoods carried deep in communities and structures can put a weight on you. It can be overwhelming. All you can do is what you feel is right. Part of seeing the truth is about acceptance too. I just can't explain how, like, how that feels in my body. Iris for president, you know what I mean? That's how I feel Iris Oracle for. It's just so good. And the fact that it's number 3 is only because my number 1 and my number 2 are my, like, in every way, shape, and form, like, they're my most used deck, my most connected to deck, like the workhorse deck, the ones that are, I'm talking about all the time. There's not a month that goes by that I haven't used these decks. I have such a deep love and feeling for them that it's just like they couldn't not be number 1 and number 2. You already know what it is. Before you even saw this video, you already know what it is. And that's the only reason Iris can be 3rd, because again, it's such a good deck. I was actually talking, like, if you got a Cassie, Riffle in Time, Cassandra, like, starter pack, you would get Outgrow Yourself, Extraordinary Incantations, and Iris. That's what it is. So spoilers. Spoilers. If I'm going to be honest with you, choosing which one's number 1 and number 2 is one of those ones that, like, keeps me up at night. I don't have a good answer for this, so I'm just going to do it how I have it physically on the table. And when I grabbed them both at the same time, and I sat them down, and that's what I got for you. That's what I got for you. Extraordinary Incantations. This deck does everything that I need it to do. It is everything I need it to be. It is loving and kind, and it calls me out. I can use it as a tarot deck. I can use it as an oracle deck. It's my favorite, like, carry with me deck because it's so small and cute, and it's like, take me in your pocket. It has, like, just, like, the best energy. When I love a creator, it's also hard to not just, like, it's like, I think the creators I adore the most are the ones I can feel them in their decks. And I feel and see Chingay when I use this. I feel like it's like, Chingay's just telling me the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. I love this deck. It has, like, the best friend energy. Like, it's there for you while also keeping you honest. It takes some, like, hard cards and puts, like, I think a really good spin on it. So we have Death here, which is a heavy card for most people. I can admit when things have run its course. I think that's, like, a beautiful thought. It's like the one I mentioned the most is the 3 of Swords. Actually, did we just see it? I think we just saw it. Can I find it? Actually the card I've gotten the most this year. I get by with a little help from my friends. I listen to that song every time I see it. Where did you go? I swear I saw it. But I'm going to keep talking about it anyways while I look for this card, because it is the one card that, like, I think the 3 of Swords trolls me on a regular basis, and I just, like, I couldn't get it until I got this. I get over myself. I get over it. Ugh. I needed to hear that. You know what I mean? So it's not just all fluff, though some of them are sweeter. Tower, I admit defeat. Sometimes you have to. And this deck is just, it's perfect. It was one of my top pairs this year too. I paired it with another deck that I'm not going to spoil that video, but I really enjoyed that pairing. I did it a lot on its own. It was a deck that I would pick up and I would take with me. It's a deck that I would just pull a single card from, like, on days that I just couldn't. It's like the decks that you go to on the days that you just don't have it, that you can't even put your feet in front of the other barely. You know what I mean? It's like, if there's decks that you can use in those moments, they have to be your top decks. I mean, when historically, this year has not been the easiest year. And in those moments, it was just like the only deck that I could even, and all I could do is pull a single card. I didn't have time for a spread. I didn't have the mental, emotional space to do anything else. And just to hear, like, I manage. You know what I mean? Like, to hear, I wallow sometimes. And, like, it was just, like, it said exactly, not too much, just enough, and always so just dead on. And I just love that deck. I scream it from the rooftops. The only reason it's not directly number one is because when I do have like conversations with a deck, and like I do that, it's like something I really enjoy doing. It's Outgrow Yourself. When I need to like, again, like there's so many things. So I guess I will put Outgrow Yourself as 1. I'll put Extraordinary Incantations at 2. And then this will be my reason. I shuffle this deck when I am nervous. I take this deck with me when I am anxious. Like, it's one of those, like, it's at this point, I just like hold it next to my face. If I'm going to pick a deck that I can just like read with ease, it's this deck. This is my most used deck of the year. It has been for some time now, and it's just it for me. Now, if I'm suggesting a deck for like anyone, I would do Extraordinary Incantations as like a deck that I feel like is a more blanketed deck. But there will be this like smaller group of people who are a little bit weird, who this would be the deck for, I feel like. And it's like this, but turn up a notch. So these like really do the same thing. They're tarot oracles. They have like, again, a little bit of something on the card, which I think is really relieving for those moments where like I don't have time to look at 3 of Swords and just see a 3 of Swords. You know what I mean? If you're in a 3 of Swords moment and you get 3 of Swords, it's just like someone flipping you off. And at least Extraordinary Incantations gives me, like, says something too. It, like, gives me a reason why I'm being flipped off. No, but, like, it just gives me, like, a reassuring kind of phrase almost. And, like, I think that's really helpful. Outgrow Yourself will give you a little bit more of an edge, a little bit more of a sass. Like, if I'm going to be read to the boots down mama, it's most likely going to be by Outgrow Yourself. The amount of times, like, you have I wallow sometimes, which feels a little bit lighter. You're going to hear, like, don't drown in a cup of water over here. You see the difference? Like, it really... Now, I'm not saying all the cards are... This is, like, learn to flow, be there. Like, they're not all sassy. You already have everything you need. There is lightness here. But if you're going to get a sass card... you're going to get it. Now, this is a Thoth-based tarot when it's used as tarot, so that's a little hard for some people too. Challenge your limits. We have go to your happy place. There are really... You can get love from Outgrow Yourself. How do I start valuing myself, though? It's like, if someone said that to you, like, how do you start to value yourself? I just, like, knock me off my seat. You only fail when you stop trying, though. Don't just waste it. Oh, here's, don't drown in a glass of water. Don't do it. Don't do it. There are cards that, like, also, I don't think people get really, at first. He Who Learns Must Suffer is one of them. There's another one that, like, cruelty is the highest pleasure. And this is the one that when it'll really break away people who want this deck versus people who want that deck, because it feels like really in your face and really crazy. But this is actually the card that I found a different meaning. And that's what I guess I really like both of these decks, because they give me different meanings for cards. And so cruelty is the highest pleasure. Like, I read that the first time and I'm like, what the? I think most people do. But then I sat and thought about it. And I think about all of the ways that we kind of twist the knife on ourselves. And one of the, like, first things that when I was explaining it to someone else I thought of is, like, have you ever went scrolling or searching up somebody and like tortured yourself looking at your ex, looking at their new girlfriend or boyfriend or like whatever, or like looking at your old friend that you like have this really like you're not friends anymore and it was this big thing. Like, do you sit up at night and play through things that are done and over, but like you're still like making it? How many times do you do something like that and then that's it? That's that card. Every time I see it now, I think it's like, what am I doing that's just pure torture to myself that I have to be getting some enjoyment out of? Like, there has to be something here for me that is, and this is why I love this deck, because I am doing a top 10 Oracle deck video and it pulls me in. It pulls me in to those like concepts and I just get so, like I pull a card and I'm so in it. I'm so in it. I don't even remember what I'm doing. I get so like the downloads here, and that's why it's my deck. That's why it's my deck. I love when like moments where I'm trying to explain something and it's like I can't even explain it and then it happens. So I don't know if you've ever seen which is like a Trixie and Katya show, but there's like combos and like she'll like put up her foot sometimes and there's like a little hat on it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it sounds crazy, but know that that was a combo. And there's like a little hat and like little sunglasses on my face right now. I feel like people who watch could appreciate Outgrow Yourself. Because it's weird. It's weird in a way that's like, Katya is weird in a way that Outgrow Yourself is weird. There was a live this year I was watching here on YouTube, and I cannot remember who all was there, like who all was on it. I wish I could, but we were talking about decks that that are weird, that people, it was like, what decks do you not like? I think pretty much was the vibe, is like, what is like a deck that it's like unpopular opinion, but I don't like it, or it's like ugly or something. And Outgrow Yourself to me is a deck that I think so many people think is ugly, but I love it so much. They're like, what the is that deck? And I'm like, it's my deck. It's my deck and I love it. When I find people who also love it in the way that I love it, I'm like, I understand. I understand you and your weirdness. It's like Iris is another deck I think people think is ugly in some ways, or like weird in some ways, and I'm like, it's beautiful. And you just don't understand. Reclaim, another one that like, I know that people are like, what is that body thing about? I'm like, it's perfect. That's what it is. Mind your business. That's what I have here. I love art that just is different. I love things that are different. And I think every one of these decks is different in its own way. And like, it's its own thing. I know there's like, I've seen so many decks over time that feel like they're just kind of the same thing over and over again. It's like their pictures are different, but it's the same. These all feel like they're their own thing in their own way. It's like even decks that kind of have similar vibes. Like we have these two watercolor nature decks. They both feel like they stand on their own for me, and they're like two very different things. Big spiel, I guess. Honorary mentions, because I'm going to cheat right now, there were several decks that did not get to be. And I guess what I'll do 3 because we're honorary mentioning. And I'm going to do Death Doula. The only reason it's not on the table is because I did not use it as consistently this year. It was my number 1 last year. It's not because it's not as good. I had so many other things. A lot of decks came out this year that I really enjoyed. Like, I think 4 or 5 of these are decks I got this year, which is crazy. I still use Death Doula, just not as much as I did last year, and that reflected, that it wasn't in the top 10. It was here, but what I ended up doing is I ended up doing color visions because it was my most used for other people. If I did just for me and I took color visions out, it would be Death Doula. That would be my number 10. So it would be my personal number 10. This was like my number 10 for other people. Does that make sense? I don't know. I will say that Visions in the Liminal Space is always a deck that kind of like hangs pretty steady through. Again, I didn't use it as much this year as I usually do, honestly, because I didn't use Way Home as much as I usually do. But I watched Bakara use them both plenty. I'm always there for the Sunday readings, really, and so like that deck for me this year was a big deck. It's just one I didn't use as much as I watched it be used. And then I will say, though I stopped doing, and again, another reason this is not in here, is I stopped doing my month aheads. After my dad got sick, I didn't have it. So for the first like 5 or 6 months of the year, I was pretty good about doing like my card for the month. I used the Devas of Creation for that, and that ended up being really beautiful. I actually really loved it with Ritual Tarot this year. That was one of the ones I really loved, that pair up. There was a couple more I did like with it, but that was a really good pair up this year. I stopped using them pretty early though, because Ritual is definitely a deck that I use in like the winter. It's like I don't know what it is about it. It's one of my dark decks. But that's, I guess, the spiel about tarot decks. It's not related to this. Itching my ear. Yeah, that's my 3. I'll honorary mention 3 decks that I still used quite a bit, but will not be in this top 10. So I love you.